Oh, shit. I forgot to send it to you. Sorry. Bam, we're live. Who sent it to you, Brian? Souza did?
Yeah, I asked him.
Oh, sorry. That's my fault. Hey, I want to tell you this story real quick. Ready? Oh, there's Angelo. Shit. Sorry, Caleb.
Hey, this is my
Hey.
phone for now until my laptop finishes its update.
I got this friend of mine sent me this text today. This is a true story. Ready? I got pulled over for rolling through a stop sign yesterday. When the cop asked me why, I told him the sign identified as yield. Guess who didn't get a ticket? I go, seriously? He said, yeah. He laughed so hard and said it was the best line he's heard yet.
What a great opening to the show.
Well, it's free. I just saved everyone who gets pulled over. I mean, I don't get pulled over anymore. I've reached that age. But Angelo's, what, you don't know that age? You will.
Where they look and they're like, oh, it's just some old guy. We'll let it.
Yeah. It's a dude in a Sienna. We don't want none. Angelo knows. Angelo drives by me in the fire truck and goes, in 20 years, I'm going to be fucking visiting that guy in the nursing home.
Yeah, no, I get pulled over all the time.
Let me ask Angelo first. Angelo, what do you think power rankings mean? What do you think that means?
That sounds like a big term that Brian understands that I don't.
I think it means who he thinks are currently the best CrossFitters in the world, ranked in order based on their sex, a list of men and a list of women, with the one caveat that they have to be eligible in this current season to make it to the games as an individual. So, for example, if someone got knocked out already, they couldn't be on the list.
Yeah.
Or two, like someone like Rich couldn't be on the list because he's an individual. Okay, so let's the Google definition is ratings or power ratings, a little different than rankings, are numerical representations of competitive strength, often directly comparable, so that the game outcome between any two teams can be predicted. Oh, so is there maybe there's some sort of calculation that Brian does that gives each person a ranking based on their birthday, their birth country, and how they did in their last competition.
That's it. Those are the only three things I think about.
No, I think it's just basically how they represented themselves at their semifinal, who they were competing against, and how they did against those people. I mean, that would be the best way, I guess. I don't know.
But to mean what? To mean what? When we look at this list, what do you think it means? Do you think that means that's if we see someone who's number 10 on the list and someone who's number 5, do you think we're going to be able to say Brian thinks that guy's going to be 5th at the games and this guy's going to be 10th?
I think as of right now, that's the only. It's really the only thing you can compare, I guess. You know, it's like they haven't done the same workouts. They haven't done all the same workouts. They've just
keep a straight face, Angelo.
They've just all qualified, and based on how they qualified out of their respective semifinal and who they competed against is the only way you could say that. So no, I don't think that necessarily means that who is 10th on the list is going to get 10th. I just think that I think he's basically done the best that he can with the information he's been given so far.
How come I can't remember? I know I've asked you before what power rankings mean. How come I can't? But I always know that whatever I'm thinking is wrong.
I mean, I think you did a pretty good job. But
good.
And then supplemented by Angelo. Can we do polls in the comments section, Sevan? Is that a thing we can do?
Yes, totally. Let's double check with Mr. Beaver.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
All right, let's do a poll. Would you rather go with the sure thing or the big risk, big reward? And we'll just put that there. We'll come back to it later.
Would you rather go with sure thing, A, or B, would you rather go with big risk, big reward?
Yeah.
No, Dick, genitalia size is not a factor this year. Thank you, though. That's been taken out.
And another, we could do a good example of the, how power rankings go just by looking around at the three of us here. It's pretty obvious that the most powerful facial hair is Angelo. You come in as a close second, Sevan, and even though I might contend in many circles, I'm a distant third here.
I'll take it. I'll take second. I'll take second to anything, D'Angelo. Let us. No, John Young is not. Is John Young banned from the Sevan podcast? No, he is not banned yet. Okay. Hello, John Young. Good to see you. So Brian, can you tell us what the power rankings are? And explain to us what's happened to them this year. I know that there's 30 men, 30 women, and last time we only had 20 and 20.
Yeah, so basically just trying to assess at different points of the season based on the total, knowledge of what we know or I know of the athletes. Yeah, I mean, you could ask yourself this question in a couple of different ways, but the general question I'm asking is, who do I think is more well-positioned or more well-poised to outperform the other one when at the competition that matters the most? There's, a lot of times when I put out these things, people think it is a prediction that I'm saying this is going to be the order of finish. This guy's going to beat this guy. And I don't really, feel that it's that valuable to do that really early on. So this is a different way to assess the field without, necessarily locking yourself into a prediction. Obviously, over the course of the next 8 weeks, many things could happen that we could learn about that could, impact these things. But at this given moment, with what we've seen this year, what we know about these athletes over the total amount of years that they've been competing, from not just a competition perspective, but a consistency perspective and a continuation of growth perspective or not. Yes, age does come into the equation. And I think one of the things that people often forget is, like, you can't have 30 guys in the top 10. There's one spot, and then that spot's gone, and the next best spot is the next best spot available. And you can be fitter this year and do worse at the games this year, especially in the men's division.
And how is that?
Because the field is better.
Oh, okay. Fitter than you were the previous year, not fitter than your comrades, your colleagues.
Correct.
Okay. So the dickhead side of me wants to be like, hey, dude, this power rankings is just you pussyfooting around, not wanting to rank them in the order that you think they're going to win the games because it's too early. But what you're saying is it's who you think is more well poised to outperform the others if the competition were tomorrow.
No.
June 22nd. No. Okay. Shit. Okay. Well, to take one more stab at it. I'm sorry.
No, I am projecting based on what I know right now about the athletes, how well I think that they will end up doing at the games. But there's a lot of things that'll happen between now and then that have, you might think it's like a cop out or whatever, that have a lot of potential to change that. And I try to, when it comes to the competitions, put out predictions for the competitions as close to the start of the competition as possible when I have the most available information, because sometimes, specific information can be, in my opinion, pretty critical for certain, especially for certain athletes. There are athletes that I think transcend those inconsistencies in either programming or timing or whatever the situation might be. But those are few and far between. And for a majority of the athletes, I look at them as having a range of potential finishes, best possible scenario to worst possible outcome, obviously with the exception of injury. However, even in the case of injury, I factor that in sometimes with certain athletes because, it almost seems useless to rank someone pretty highly at the games level when they have only shown the capacity to not finish the games test ever. And, then it's like, okay, well,
who are you saying when you say that? Who are you saying, like Cara Saunders or?
No, Cara is an interesting factor for sure because she has had a lot of ups and downs at the games. She's had just as many amazing performances as withdraws or below par performances. And
is there someone who's been to the games twice and never finished the games either time?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but part of the problem with most of the athletes in the field is that some of the only opportunities they had were 2019 and 2020, which were, kind of, they weren't, you actually weren't being tested at the games. I actually think that both Adrian Bosman and Brent Fikowski did a decent job in this past press conference of detailing what is so special about the games, and that it is different than any other competition you can do. And in those 2 years, the athletes there did not get to experience the games in that way. And so, I can look at someone and say, oh, you only did 5 workouts in 2020. You only did 1 workout last year. You had to withdraw. And in 2019, you did 5. Last year, in 2020, online, you did the 7 workouts online. And it just doesn't there's not a really good, even though this person's been to the games multiple times, there's no good sample size or data to look at. Well, can that person actually last the duration of the games?
Right. Roman.
No, it's Danny Spiegel is the one I'm referring to.
Right. But Roman's another one that's
Sure.
hey, what's going to happen when he's not in Siberia? Is he going to melt? Does he melt past the seventh event?
Roman's a great example. So, because you want to, it appears like he has every potential to be as good as anyone at the games based on the things that he's done. He's regularly
not Justin Medeiros. Careful.
His competition resume over the past several years is better than Justin Medeiros at the competition he's been able to compete at. But he hasn't
the Siberian Throwdown, the Moscow Open, and the St. Petersburg's Butchery. Those were legit.
No, he's competed at Dubai more than once, right?
Yes, and he's done exceptionally well there. He finished behind Brent and Pat one year. He won it last year. He's
all I remember is that Ricky smoked his ass
in one workout.
That's one I remember.
No, and in both.
I love Roman. I just can't give him any. I can't give him any street cred yet. I just can't. Can't.
But that is the highest level competition that he's competed at, and in the last 2 years that he's done it, he basically beat the field this year by 100 points, and it's not, it's not the best field out there, but you got Lazar Jukic, Ricky Garrard, Jeff Adler, and none of those guys were able to get within 95 points of him on the leaderboard by the end of the test. And then you have the previous year that he did it, he lost to Fikowski and Vellner, but he was 100 points ahead of the 4th place finisher, which is BKG. And we all know how good BKG can do in a game setting. The games are usually 13 to 15 tests. Dubai is usually 9 or 10 tests these years. And so he's getting close to demonstrating against some of the best games athletes that he can hang for, at least a good portion of what the games test is going to be.
We're way off track here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Angelo, when you show up to the games and you're just a savage like someone like Roman is, do you still look back and look around you and be like, oh shit, there's nowhere to hide? Like, do you know that now it's like a totally different show?
Yeah, I think anybody who shows up to the games, it's a totally different feeling. Doesn't matter how many big high level competitions you've been to, the games are a completely different animal. Mainly just because that's what your whole year revolves around, and that's what everyone else's year revolves around. So, like what Brian's saying is you can compare stuff to that Dubai pretty well because it's of the test, how long the test is. But then you have to think about that. Some people, they don't train all that hard for it, and they're not trying to peak then, that could be just, okay, I'm going to train. And then let's say I'm like 4th week into my 9-week Olympic lifting cycle. I'll just put it on pause for a week and go do this competition. Whereas the games, it's all tailor-made. I'm going to finish my Olympic lifting cycle the week before the games, and I'm going to finish this aerobic capacity cycle a week before the games. And I want to be ramped up and ready to go, taper for a few days. And I'm the fittest I've been all year. So, I think the games are a totally different animal, for a lot of reasons, and that being one of them.
I mean, you can be, Roman's going to be in a heat and he's going to look to his right and there's Travis Mayer, and to his left there's Justin Medeiros, and then he's going to look one more down to his left and there's going to be Noah, and then he's going to look to his right a little more down, there's going to be Lazar Jukic, and there's going to be no one. Everyone he looks at, he's going to have seen on TV or on Instagram win in some sort of event somewhere. Yeah. Everyone in his heat, someone is going to, has a fan base that thinks that guy's going to win the games.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you playing football with the kids in your neighborhood, and then you're like, man, I'm being the best kid in the neighborhood, and then go showing up to high school and being like just kind of run of the mill. It's like everyone is that kid. Everyone's that kid who's the best in his group, and they're getting sent there. So you're not like, Yeah, some people are kind of standout, but mostly everybody there is usually the best person in their gym, or second or third in their gym, depending on who they're training with. I mean, we know the training groups are a lot more prevalent now than they used to be, but you're showing up, you're probably the fittest guy in your circle or close to it. You're not usually getting beat all the time. And then when you show up to the games, you're competing against the guys who are just like you, and they can easily beat you in any of the events, or you can beat them in any of the events. So being able to roll with the punches of knowing like, oh, I'm a good swimmer, getting in the water and being like 5th place in the swim, that can freak some people out. Like, this is supposed to be a home run hit. What's happening? So yeah, there's a ton of different mental. There's the mental side of the games, and then there's the physical. Like I said, just being able to like know that everyone's at their fittest, and they've been training all year for that competition.
Guys, this of all the game shows we do, this is the junk food. This is the cotton candy. This is the fun one. So everyone settle down. This is the fun one. One chill. In the comments, I mean, fucking turn into it. It's like dogs behind a cage. They're like barking at the enemy, and then they start biting each other. Brian, in those comments, but in the morning chalk up comments, people say in there a half dozen times, it appears that the people commenting in here don't understand what the power rankings are.
So okay, let me I want to just add something in. So before the semifinals, there's, I think, a good example of this is an Alex Vigneault. I'm not worried about Alex Vigneault at the games. I'm worried about if he's going to get to the games. If he gets to the games and he doesn't get injured, I know that he's going to do great because he's never done anything other than great. But it's not a guarantee he's going to get through the semifinals. The semifinals is the critical point of the season for him. So when I'm doing a power ratings early in the season, I'm aware of Alex Vigneault's potential, but I'm still holding him back a little bit relative to guys like, and it didn't even necessarily turn out this way, but guys like Noah Olson or Travis Mayer or Cole Sager, who I feel much more confident will make it through the semifinals. And then I want to see, and I see a guy like Alex, and he did what he needed to do, and he didn't look stressed doing it. And even though I think it is a stressful weekend for him because he knows that that's, all he has to do is find a way to get through. He did that, and now I think he's in his element. So he's going to move up at that point for me. And that's how you can see, because otherwise you could just say, oh, Bill, these are the power rankings for someone at the start of the season, and how are they different after the Open? How are they different after the quarterfinals or the semifinals? And in some cases, there are athletes that we have not had a chance to see in any real comparable setting for whatever number of reasons until this semifinals. And so those people are probably missing entirely from the ratings or power rankings prior to that. And some of them are still missing from the power rankings after that because I just don't think that I have enough information to put them ahead of people that I do have that information about.
Making the assumption we'll do this show a week before the CrossFit Games, will it still be called the Power Ranking Show?
The week before, probably,
or will it be who will win the games?
Probably that.
Okay. Thank you, John.
I think that when it comes to the games, obviously a few workouts might be announced right up before it, but probably Monday, Tuesday, Monday prior to the games, that's a good time to say, like, this is what I think is going to happen in order.
Steven, that show will be starting at 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Power Bottoms. Okay. Exciting year for the CrossFit Games. Would you say, if I'm reading this right, what you wrote in the Morning Chalk Up article, and if you could pull that up, Caleb, it was published early this morning. You believe that this year's men's competition and this year women's competition are the best females and males ever to be vying to get to the games?
I think this is amongst the maybe second or third best men's field. It's in the top 3 best men's fields I've ever seen. And I think the women's field's similar to last year, is missing too many significant players to be considered that.
So you're saying the women's isn't necessarily the toughest ever?
Not relative to what's out there, no. I mean, it is very, very impressive and deep, but we just lost Kristen Holta and Sam Briggs from the field. We don't have Annie Thorsdottir in the field this year.
Well, we didn't lose Sam Briggs. She
Well,
lost
yeah.
herself. There's a difference
No,
between
but-
bowing out and not making it, right? If you don't make it, then it's still an argument that this is the best field. I hate to think I'm having trouble. I hate to think that the women's field is sliding backwards.
It's not sliding backwards, but in addition to those, you also have athletes like Sarah Sigma's daughter, Jamie Simmons, Madeline Sturt, Katrin David's daughter, Ariel Lowen, who have proven the capacity to finish in the top half of the games field, that none of them are necessarily past the point of their career where they could still do that, and they're all in the last chance qualifier. Now, obviously, there are women that had to beat them to get in there, but I don't think that those women will do as well at the games, even though they beat them at semifinals, as the women that I just listed that are in the last chance qualifier would do. And so that's 5 in the last chance qualifier, 3 that have been perennial contenders at the games that aren't in the field this year for whatever reason. And then you also have the Bethany Shadburn. You also had Carrie Pierce retire, So there's up to 10 women missing that actually could be vying for top half finishes at the games. And if you had those 10 women's there with the top 30 that are maybe on this list right now, suddenly you're looking at pretty close to a full women's field where you're like, I'm actually interested in this first heat because there's 5 women in here that I actually know them and they could, cause some havoc on certain workouts.
Yeah, the games are going to be great. The 2014, was that the year that Matt Fraser and Rich were both at the games when they competed against each other?
Yeah, and I think that is amongst one of the best years for the men's field as well.
How cool is that for Rich?
It's just a great field. When you just look down the leaderboard of that field, it's it's really impressive.
He put it to him. It kind of fucks it up for Matt.
No, I don't think so.
I won 5, yeah, but I beat you. Oh.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just saying, like if they were pissing in stalls next to each other. Yeah, but I mean,
great.
That's how they
come. What are you going to say? Yeah, I've got 4 titles, and Graham Holmberg walks up and says, "Yeah, but I beat you, Rich." And he
Damn, Brian. Damn. Drat you. Oh my goodness.
That's what look, I like looking at the numbers. The numbers tell a lot of the story, but the numbers are not the end of the story.
Right, of course. Okay, should we pull it up? It's a beautiful list. I think you guys are going to really appreciate this. We can start with them. Do you want to start with the men?
Whatever you want.
Yeah, let's start with the men. These are 30 men. Last time there was 20. I think that the reason why is because we have the last chance qualifier. So Brian wanted to make.
This is the first year I'm doing this, and I wasn't sure of the appropriate number. I felt that after the semifinals, the cross people, I think even though in some of the semifinals there weren't great attendance in person, I think that there was a really good attention to semifinals by the CrossFit sporting community remotely this year, and that people know enough about 30 to 40 athletes, maybe even 50 athletes in some cases, that we could expand the list a little bit and still have conversations about people that athletes that people are very passionate about.
Okay. I don't think I understood that, but I love this list. So what you guys are seeing is the list. Up at the top is Justin Medeiros, the champ, rightfully so. And then you see these green triangles with a number inside of them. That means the last time that the power rankings were there, that person has moved up 6 spots. So you see Scott Panchek, he's got a green triangle with a 6 in it. That means that last time we did this a month or 2 ago, that he was number 11. Correct?
Yeah.
And that Roman Krennikov has moved down. Last time he was 5 and he's moved down, etc. Can we see the whole list really quick, and then we'll go, and then we'll man, Jason Hopper's up there.
It's split into 2 pictures. Do you want me to just pull up the spreadsheet?
No, just slide to the next 15.
Merci. Man, the comments are feisty. So at the very bottom, number 30, we have Spencer Panchik, and at the top, at number 1, we have Justin Medeiros. Wow, look at these names. Go ahead and take a quick look at these names.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying, is that the 20 through 30 names are names that most people know, and a lot of people are interested in these athletes. So I felt like cutting it off at 20 was not really doing a full service to this, but and then at the games, I'll go all the way through 40.
There was a line in there in the morning chalk up that you say aspects of fitness that don't show up on the leaderboard or put to the test. What is that? Judges, crowds, venues outside? Like what are
I mean,
you talking about elements, the untangibles?
I think it's intangibles.
Intangibles? Yeah, I think you're right too. The intangibles?
Yeah, but
What were you referencing?
Angelo knows these things. Angelo,
Who do I
what
know?
are some of the things that are relevant at the games that aren't relevant at any other competition all year round for the athletes?
The length, the type of events, the type of equipment they can get. I want to say the heat mostly, but I mean not necessarily. You can get the heat in other places too. But yeah, I would say I would say the equipment mostly, because they have access. They have such easier access to Rogue, and they can come up with new stuff every year, like the snail and like the worm years ago, and just different things like that. Am I missing it? Tell me if I'm.
No, just yeah. I think that from a total volume, a length, the ability to recover, the ability sometimes to deal with new information in a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
The being forced into environments or workouts that have things that you've never touched before, having to adapt on the fly. And then what you guys said earlier is like, most of the time when you go to a competition, you can look around and pretty quickly assess and say, okay, these are the threats. And when you get to the CrossFit Games, it's way easier to identify the people that aren't the threats than are the threats. There's far fewer that are not the threats at the games. And that's a total inverse to most competitions.
This list that you're looking at, all of these people have a chance of still making it to the CrossFit Games. If you don't have a chance of going to the CrossFit Games based on the current rule book or where you've fallen, or if you're on as an individual, you have to be able to go to the CrossFit Games as an individual to be on this list. So if you're like, hey, where's Rich Froning? Well, he's on the team. That's why he's not on here. Or where's so-and-so, because they're not eligible. By the way, is Roman in the country? Is he going for sure? Did he make it? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think we should look at the biggest movers. I think that's where the most exciting pieces are. You want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Let's look at him. Let's look at Saxon. Moved up 6 places. How come are people? I think Saxon's great. I think he's like one of the biggest threats to Justin out there. But I feel like people are having trouble accepting that. Why is that? Is it because it's Scott's little brother?
No. So when it says it moved up 6, that was prior to the quarterfinals. Tommy Marquez, Chase Ingram, Patrick Clark, Chad Schrader, and myself each did a power rankings, and then we did a composite one. And many of those guys had Saxon a lot higher than I did. So I had him fairly low relative to the other group of analysts there. And I think that I was probably just waiting some things from Wadapalooza that were pretty unimpressive to me, way too highly early in the season in his regard. When you look at Saxon historically, like, he's a very, very consistent performer, and he has a couple things that he's not very good at. And then he's not necessarily hitting the home runs to offset those bad performances, but his overall consistency keeps him pretty high relative to the field. So he's got a small number of holes and a really consistent game.
And he's strong as shit.
Yeah. So really, really long stuff is not great for him. And high power output, especially on the bike, is not great for him. Like, those are the two things he struggles the most with relative to the top competitors in the sport.
I bet you if you ask those guys above him how much they respect him, I bet you Patrick and I mean, I don't know this at all, but I bet you Patrick, Brent, and Bjorgvin respect the fuck out of him. Justin probably keeps that a little closer to his chest.
Yeah, and it's also a little, it's a little different. Like, Justin is so good, but we kind of forget, he's really young. And so he looks at guys like Saxon and Lazar and Guy, and he's like, these are my peers, and they're really good, and they're coming for me. Like, Brent and Patrick and BKG, they're looking backwards on their career a little bit relative to those guys, and they say, like, we're still here, but these guys are coming. But they they know how to do this stuff. That's why there's no change at the top. Like, until this 5 through 15 show me that they can beat that 1 through 4, nothing's going to change up there. There's nothing you can show me at semifinals against whatever field you're competing against that's saying, yep, I think you can beat Fikowski at the games. Because what Angelo was talking about earlier is if you show up at a Dubai or a Wadapalooza and Brent Fikowski or Pat Vellner is there, they are not peaking for that competition. They're just doing that competition to get some experience, maybe to travel a little bit, maybe for some sponsor stuff. And they'll try to do well because there's some good money to win for sure. But when they're getting ready for the games, it's totally different. And they're taking years and years and years of discipline and practice and trial and error and conversations with other people and studying the sport. These guys are really cerebral. I mean, they know their sport. They know the workouts. They know the athletes are going against. They know how to prepare their meals, their food, their rest, all of it. And you can't replicate that without having the years of tried and true experience that leads to the success that those guys have had.
You like where Saxon's at? When did you make this list?
Me?
Yeah.
Like 2 days ago.
And
yeah, I love where Saxon's at. So the main thing with Saxon is I don't think and some of this is this is some intangible stuff. I don't think I've ever seen Saxon move on and off the competition floor with as much poise, control, and professionalism as I did in Knoxville this year. And that men's field was good. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Dallin Pepper is the real deal. This guy is very, very, very good, and he's dangerous, and he's coming. Cole Sager knows how to manage a semifinal regional format as well as anyone. Noah had the worst possible day he could have on day one and still rebounded from it. It was in the mix. There were a lot of good guys there, and Saxon outclassed them all basically on every workout the whole weekend. He didn't win every workout, but if you just go back and watch the way that he moved through workouts, and there's no way for you guys to go watch this, but the way that he carried himself around in the back areas, in the check-in, after winning the competition, it was a guy who I just feel like is in a really, really good place, not just in his competitive career, but in his whole life where things are on balance. I think that this transition to working with the Proven Crew has been able to even improve him from what he was last year when he took 5th at the games. I was really impressed with everything I saw from him in Knoxville. And I don't, even though that shouldn't be the end all be all, when you add that to the total body of work that he's done before, the propensities that he's shown to be consistent and effective in these settings and these long types of tests, being the totality of the CrossFit Games, it's a guy that, like you just said, these guys are aware of and do respect.
Do you like where he's at, Angelo? You like those top 5?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect spot for him. Not really much else to say. I think that's right where I would have put him, right at 5th.
What is he? When you were looking at 4th and 5th, Brian, Bjorgvin, and Saxon, did you struggle with that at all?
No, not really. I mean, the thing about those 4 guys at the top is it's really hard to find people who've beaten them, and they're just they're regularly up there. And yeah, BKG didn't win his semifinal this year. Lazar had an amazing weekend, and it's going to happen at some point that those guys are going to slide down or fall off relative to the guys that are coming. It has to. But he's been so consistent at the games. He's been so good. He knows even when he's not healthy there, when he's not 100%, when he's getting some bad breaks on the competition floor, he doesn't get rattled by that. He just keeps going, and his keep going is good enough to be in the top 5 pretty damn often.
If you guys don't mind, I'd like to move to Jeffrey Adler. I'm struck. He left a pretty strong mark on us in that final week. He handled his business, and so here we are. I know you started this by saying, "Hey, once you place a guy, you put Bjorgvin in 4th. That shit's gone. No one else can be there." But it's hard to see Adler down here. I mean, he put on a show for us, and he finished so strong.
Adler was amazing. I was incredibly impressed with him. Pretty much everything he did the whole weekend I thought was spot on. He made a calculation error on the lift. He probably could have got 5 more pounds and even got 5 more points or 4 more points by the end of the weekend and had even a little bit bigger margin there. He out executed Pat, on several workouts towards the end of the weekend, or both workouts on the last day. Felder made some mistakes. Adler had a clean run, and he earned that victory. Adler's a good example of what I said kind of at the opening of the show is, and this honestly applies to a lot of people, is, he might be better this year than he was last year. In fact, I'm confident that he's better this year than he was last year, but it's hard to move up very far. He was 14th last year at the games. 13th last year at the games. And I think he's going to improve, but that's a pretty stout 8 guys ahead of him. And based on what I've seen from him and know about those guys, I'm not convinced that he can beat any of them in that setting yet. But Adler is also, I think maybe every time I've ever put a rankings out, he's outperformed them. So, he's trying. Even at the semifinals, I put him second, and he put a thing on his Instagram. Who thinks I can beat Brian's rankings? And he did.
Angelo, I don't want to mischaracterize Adler. I don't know him that well, but there was this kind of chatter about him at the semifinals that the guy's strong enough. He walked into a gym his very first day, never deadlifted and pulled 400, and that basically he just is a strong dude, and he's really been just working on his engine. That in his mind, he's strong enough. Do you have any thoughts on that? Opinions, editorial on that?
I mean, yeah, some people, different genetics and all that plays a factor. Like, I mean, locally, obviously, we all know Guy and that he's like one of the best Olympic lifters. He is, I mean, I think arguably the best Olympic lifter in CrossFit. And he doesn't lift all that often. So I think a lot of the genetics play to their strength and, I'd say work early in their life. I mean, Guy, I think worked, I'm not sure about Adler, but I know Guy worked a lot on his technique and his strength early in his career, and mainly because he liked it and his coach was a good Olympic lifting coach. And so Adler could be the same way. He may have put in a lot of work when he was younger and he's got the good genetics for it. And when he started CrossFit, he already carried in a lot of strength that he already had and never really had to work on that. That's true for some people. I mean, like Fraser was for Matt. That's very similar to how he was. He still worked on it, but he didn't put a lot of emphasis on it. He just had to really dial stuff up. And yeah, he got a little stronger, but that was never his main focus. It was more so just to build his engine, and that's really all he needed.
If you can only work out 2 or 3 times a day and you're the strongest guy in CrossFit, then why not invest those 2 or 3 workouts in your weaknesses?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, obviously everything needs tuning up. No matter how good you are at anything, you still need to hit it every now and then. But
everything does need tuning up, and everything does need to be hit now and again.
But it doesn't need it all the time. The things that you're great at.
Yeah. You should have stopped there. Maybe it does need it all the time. Maybe. God, those were a great string of sentences you said. Angelo, you're a good dude. Every time you come on the show, I think you're a better and better dude. Two of the guys that I think
that one time he came on without a mustache.
That sucked. Two of the funnest guys on the circuit. It was funny. I had Lauren Khalil, the great Khaleesi, on this morning, and I asked her who the worst interview ever was, and I had a whole shtick I was gonna do and just beat on Dallin Pepper. Just fucking hammer his ass. But the truth is, Dallin and Phil Toon are really bringing a shit ton of excitement, I think, to this men's class. Can we see where Phil Toon drops on the next page? They were both amazing to watch and talk about, and they're both fun guys, easy to talk to. I think we're gonna have a great, however long they're in the sport, 10 years with these guys. Okay, so you have them at 15 and 16. Wow. So. At 15, Brian has put in his power rankings, has Dallin Pepper, a young kid training in Florida with Matt Torres and the Brute Strength crew. Phil Toon's also his training partner. Bunch of other people great down the right. Emma Carey and
James Sprague. Olivia Sulik's moving down there.
Who Sulik?
Olivia Sulik. Let's talk about her another time.
Okay. And then below them, we have a list of some greats that we'll hit on. But do you just drop, like when you make this list and you have 1 through 30, do you just put Medeiros at the top and then Dallin and Phil in the middle because you don't know? I mean, like, how did you do this? Like, why are they just dead center? And can't Tudor Magda be up there with them too? Just push him in 17th. Like, isn't he kind of like that too? Like, shit, what are we dealing with?
Yeah, so for sure there are some athletes that I look at and I feel very similarly about. And so in this case, you bringing them up, I feel similarly about Dallin Pepper and Phil Toon, and I also feel similarly about Tudor Magda and Cole Grayshaber's potential this year. And that's why you see them kind of next to each other on the leaderboard. And someone
I
asked me,
thought Cole Grayshaber was a girl. Is there a girl? Is there
what?
Who am I confusing that with?
Christine Kohlenbrander?
Oh, yeah. What a mess my brain is. Okay. Thank you. Good job, Angelo. Okay, sorry, Brian. Cole Grayshaber. What kind of name is Grayshaber and Kohlenbrander?
Yeah, is that it?
Yes. I'm impressed, Angelo.
This is going to be a
You
tough
were able
year.
to decipher the jargon of Sevan's brain.
Okay. Sorry, Brian. Sorry.
No, Dallin and Phil Toon. Yes. So I mentioned earlier that there's, when I'm assessing these athletes, I do think about a range of potential finishes. I think that it's pretty likely that one of those two guys will finish in the top 10 this year at the games. And it'll be really impressive if either one of them does. And I think there's also the potential for both of them to finish outside the top 20. And if you look at the guys that are right behind them, Sager, Caron, Olsen, Mayer, and Happelainen and Houdet, 5 of those 6 guys made the top 20 last year. Only Alexander Caron missed out. And I think Alexander Caron has improved from last year to this year by a notable margin. Obviously, you see, I even moved him up a couple of spots in semifinals. So, and if you look at the guys ahead of Dallin, it's a tough list. Very difficult to beat those men. Right ahead of him, we have Alex Vigneault, who we talked about before, Jason Hopper, who I think is on the ascension this year. Yona Koski's up there, and Yona hasn't qualified for the games yet. But obviously, if he doesn't, then everyone moves up a spot. Willie George, who looks like he's back to his old self, and then from there on up, it's pretty much guys. Most people would say those are the top 10, or maybe 9.
What happened to the squeaky clean crew?
What is that?
Cole Sager, Noah Olsen, and Travis Mayer.
Oh, nothing's happened to him. I mean,
they all took a hit at semifinals. You got Cole dropping 3, Noah Olsen 6, and Travis 5. That's blasphemy.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with their performance. So I've asserted Phil and Dallin ahead of them. So that and they were not on the list previously. That's what the blue means. So I felt like I didn't have enough confidence that they would make it through semifinals, enough information about their competitive performance. And I was supremely impressed with both of them for different reasons at semifinals. Then I knew I had to have them in the top 20. The other guys that moved up past them are Alex Vigneault, who we already talked about why I moved him up the list, because I think he excels in the games format. And Willie George, who, was a huge question mark. We haven't seen him compete live in a while. And I would think everyone would agree that he was very impressive in a pretty tough men's field. Like, even the guys down 9th through 15th were like very, very relevant in a lot of workouts. And he still accumulated, I think, 520 points or something like that, which is quite a bit considering the depth of that field. And he looked good doing it. And then Jason Hopper, that's the other guy that I moved up ahead of him. And in the case of Jason Hopper, I actually know him. I had a chance to have some good conversations with him this year. I didn't get to see him compete in person, but I went back and watched all his semifinal stuff. And I think that he's in a really good place. Even though he didn't win or beat Justin this year at semifinals, I think as a totality, I was actually more impressed with him this year because I know the things that he's been working on. And I think that he's put himself in a good position to not have such big blunders at the games this year. And I think he's in a good position to move up as well. Noah, obviously people know had, not a good day one, and overall was probably a disappointing semifinal for him relative to what maybe he could have done. I thought Travis was very good in a stout field at the Granite Games. And Travis is very good, and he's very solid, and he's tough to beat. He's never quit kind of guy. But like I said earlier on, I think the games field for the men's year this year is really tough, really difficult. And there's guys that will be fitter than they were last year that finish worse than they did that year.
You have 2 guys in orange, Tyler Christoffel.
3, Yona Koski, Tyler Christoffel, and Royce Dunn.
Royce Dunn. Wow. And you have Yona Koski high. You think that those 3 guys are better than Colton Mertens?
I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah, I do. I do. That's why they're ahead of him.
Oh, you're a beast, Caleb.
Oh, wow,
you're a beast.
Amazing.
Caleb. Woo. Sick. Oh, look, now we got BKG in there. You know
what this is like, Sevan?
You think this guy, Royce Dunn, the giant from Australia. This guy is 7'2", 412 pounds. You think he is better than Colton Mertens? Royce Dunn can't even tie his own shoes in the morning. He's so big.
Royce Dunn he's amazing. Look, the men from Australia are really good, and they're actually, I think, outperformed their semifinals performances at the games. They're a bit so the guys that are on
Say
here.
that last line. You think they what?
I think that they're even better at the games than they are in the semifinals. Now, at the semifinals, they only have to go against each other. But I think if you distributed the Australian men, Jay Crouch, Baden Brown, Ricky Garrard, Royce Dunn, Bailey Martin, across, if they were each one of them sent to a North American or European semifinal, I think it would be they might not do that great. They would be 4th or 5th place qualifiers out of some of those regions. But at the games, they could still beat some of the people that would finish 2nd and 3rd in some of the regions, 2nd or 3rd and 4th if they took the 5th spot. I think they'll be better at the games than they would at some.
Watch this shameless plug here. You ready, Angelo?
Yeah.
It must be that Mayhem programming.
Yeah, I think it is.
They are both Mayhem, right? Tyler and Royce?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I
think Baden Brown is also.
Baden Brown, yeah. I can go on and on. Karam.
There's a guy in here in this list of 30. He's the ultimate dark horse. He is actually a worse interview than fucking Dallin Pepper. This guy is a fucking serious fucking threat. He's a threat to Saxon and he's a threat to Justin. And he's young and he is a serious, serious threat. But he's so shy. He's quiet even. Thank God the last time I interviewed him, he brought his coach on with him. Thank God. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Angelo, do you know who he's talking about?
No, I don't.
This kid is good, man. This guy is special.
I think you're talking about Guy.
No.
He
was great. I'm talking about Jay Crouch.
Jay Crouch.
Oh, we had Rob on.
Yeah. I think that what you're gonna see is you're gonna see of all the people on here, Brian's gonna wish he had him higher after the games.
I've heard he's really good too. I mean, I've never trained with him or competed.
He's special, man.
Yeah, I've heard he's really good from several people. So.
But man, he makes Dallin Pepper look like a chatterbox. Ooh, he had Rob Forte on there. Rob Forte is the quietest man in the world, and Rob was just it seemed like he was on meth on the show compared to Jay. Jay's got a nice smile.
Rob was it was great having Rob on.
It was.
If you didn't listen to that one, I really enjoyed that. It was probably one of the more enjoyable, kind of unexpected interviews I've done. Rob was great, gave a lot of insights going back years and also where he's at now with a coaching perspective.
Yeah, he's a mature man now.
It's a good person for Jay to have in his corner, and it feels like that he's really invested in Jay. Look, Jay, this is Jay's 3rd time to the games. I think he did okay last year. He barely missed the cut. I think he was pretty disappointed about that. I think he's definitely hungry to, prove that he can do better than that.
Guys, this is a really fun field. This is a really, really fun field of dudes.
Yeah, sorry, Brandon. Oh, go ahead. Okay, go.
No, go ahead, Angelo. You go. Brian's not going to forget. We got to balance this shit out a little bit.
Well, so I just saw that comment, and I'm like, there is people on the list that I think should be higher, or maybe people that I think should be lower. But but really, what you have to think about is like what Brian keeps saying. There's only one spot. There's that spot, and then you got to go to the next spot, and then you got to go to the next spot. There's a lot of really good guys, and the goal is to hopefully be surprised. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for Brian here, but if I were to make something like this, I would want at the end of the weekend to be like, wow, I got all of this wrong. Everything's wrong on here. It's cooler to see man, I'm so wrong. I thought for sure this guy was going to win. I thought for sure this guy was going to be in 5th place, and I'm totally wrong. It's cool when someone proves you wrong and is just goes and crushes it. So yeah, there's only one spot for each person, and it's hard to get past some of those other guys. We'll just say Tudor, for instance. I mean, that's a tough crew. you're talking about, like we said, Jay Crouch is poised to do very well. Noah Olson, Travis Mayer, like they already dropped down a little bit. Like I'm sure that wasn't a hard thing to do. Then you look at the guys in the top 10, it's like, yeah, it's hard. Like you're talking about the 30 best guys you can possibly think of this year. It's a tough group to be put against.
Brian, I got something from your Instagram. Unless you want to say something.
I was just going to finish the thought about
Okay.
Jay Crouch since you'd asked about him, which is he's only 22 years old. Like he's been around a little bit. People are getting used to seeing him there, and he's starting to have some expectation on him. But it's really tough to be relevant in the top 10 at that age. That's what's so impressive about what Guy did last year. Medeiros, as 22 and 23 years old, is twice on the podium. Very impressive. You don't see it very often. I think that Jay with Rob is in a great environment where they're not risking injury early on in his career, and they're building an incredible foundation. I think 2 and 3 years from now, because he seems to be a guy who's really committed to this for the long run, that you'll see a version of Jay Crouch emerge that is very, very dangerous.
Brian, when you say it's surprising, well, not surprising, it's an extra achievement to see someone on there so young. If I were to follow that up and say, especially amongst men,
yeah, for sure,
would that be fair? Okay.
And in the same token, with very old, if a man was 35 plus and being relevant in the games, even then, that's an outlier also relative to women in their mid to late 30s that we've seen still be relevant.
Right. If this show is boring you're welcome to swing over to Naked HD Tinder. Just so you know, we have options. You have options. On Brian's Instagram, he posted the 2022 post semifinals power rankings. That's what this show is based on. The article that was in the Morning Chalk Up. Brian Friend, CrossFit. So iron sharpens iron 77. I think Phil Toon has got to be top 12. No. He's made incredible strides within the last year and competing amongst a really tough field. I would think he's going to rise to the occasion. We touched on this a little bit, but you want to give it a little more?
Look, Phil Toon and Dallin Pepper beat all three Panchik brothers, beat Jason Hopper, beat Colton Mertens, beat Tyler Christopher, Tim Paulson, James Sprague, Alex Vignol, Uldis Upanex, a bunch of amazing athletes at Wodapalooza. Like they have proved that they belong in the competition, no doubt about it. Wodapalooza is not the games, and semifinals is not the games. And most of those guys that are ahead of them have the edge in terms of experience. Those guys, Dallin has been to the games and done it at the teenage level. And I think that, like I said, I think he's really dangerous. If I was going to pick one of the two of them to make the top 10 this year, I would choose Dallin over Phil. But Phil continues to impress me. There was some stuff at semifinals that I think is still holes for him that he needs to shore up. But his adaptation is very fast. He seems to learn things and correct things and improve on things at an uncanny rate relative to a lot of other athletes. So I think he does have the potential to have a really quick rate of improvement in certain capacities. I think that he's going to have to learn some things the hard way at the games this year, like most everyone has to do.
Jay Crouch. Listen,
It's like Andrew Hiller during the Atlas games, just kept saying Connor Duddy, and nothing ever came of Connor Duddy.
Dalton Ott. Leaving Colton, this is from your Instagram also. Leaving Colton out of the top 20. Get your Colton playing card at Wad Zombie.
Just so everyone knows, I'm a huge Colton Mertens guy. Okay?
Dang,
I love Colton
Mertens. Leaving Colton out of the top 20 is a mistake, let alone the top 30. I understand why, though. Do you, Dalton Ott? I'm going to tell you why. I think we both agree there will be 3 or 4 workouts this year. He contends to be best in the world. I would then make the case his improvements on his weaknesses balances him out enough to make it the entire weekend. I guess we'll see. Listen, it's all one thing. Brian thinks he's too fucking short.
Sevan.
Brian thinks he's
Sevan.
5'4" and that you can't fucking be on his list. You can't be on the list if you're 5'4". You can't. But Royce Dunn can be on the list.
Hold on. Okay, great. I'm glad you brought up Royce Dunn in comparison with him. Has this guy, whoever this Dalton guy is, looked at Colton Mertens' performances from last year relative to Royce Dunn? Because Colton Mertens, who you perceive to have the potential to be the best in the world at a certain workout, did not finish better than 17th on any workout last year at the games. And besides or 15th, excuse me, at a 15th and a 17th, and everything else was 23rd or worse.
Yeah, but Dallin and Phil Toon didn't even go to the fucking games.
Irrelevant in this conversation.
Oh, okay.
Royce Dunn had a 5th place finish, a 3rd place finish, a 4th place finish, a 4th place finish, a 2nd place finish.
Word.
That's a massive difference. You look
Right.
at the leaderboard. Look into these things. It's not
how old is Royce Dunn?
30.
Okay. And Colton
Listen,
is.
let me talk about Colton Mertens.
How old is Colton Mertens?
Colton's like 25 or 6.
Yeah.
23. 23. I think he's 24.
Colton will get better between the semifinals and the games. Where Royce Dunn, who almost fucked that up, Royce Dunn, his ability will wane a small percentage because of his age.
No,
it's true.
Royce Dunn had
true. Same with Ms. Lawson. That's it. Well, I wait till I fucking go nuts with how low you put her. You're out of your mind.
Sevan.
But
Sevan. Royce Dunn hasn't made the games yet.
Okay, we see. I told you that. Then how the fuck is he on the list? I know. I love him.
If he makes the games,
yeah,
he'll
I
do
understand.
a lot better at the games than Colton.
I know, and you know what? You're right. I agree with you. I just.
Let me tell you about Colton Mertens.
I have emotional bias. Go on.
That's okay. I think that you're in the majority.
All right.
And sometimes I have to have the emotional talk with myself as well. Colton Mertens, I am so impressed with him this year. He set out to improve on things that people were telling him he could never compete in. Rowing and wall balls and running and long distance workouts. And he puts in more work to fix those things, as much work as anyone, to overcome the obstacles he has, especially when it comes to certain things. And he showed at the Granite Games this year that work did pay off. He was way better in those workouts, those parts of those workouts, than I think most people gave him credit for. And he wasn't the only one there who was doing that, but he was, I think, as good as he could have been on 5 workouts. And that was good enough to get into the games despite an awful, basically last place workout. And there are always things in competition that are out of your control. And there are things that happened that were unfortunate circumstances for other athletes there that might have prevented him from the games despite perfect performances that he had. But that is not a worry of Colton's in the slightest. He showed up. He did amazing. The work he put in the offseason paid off, and he earned a spot to the games. I still think that, like you talked about earlier, when you look left and right at the games, there are too many guys that are too good at those things that he's not going to be able to make much of a dent or an impact on him this year, 1 year later from last year.
What do you think the highest he'll finish at an event at the games?
10th.
That's the highest you think he'll finish?
There are certain combinations of workouts that could show up that he could win. If it's the right rep scheme and weight of a strict handstand push-up and deadlift workout, put him in the money for the top 3. But he's got to get one of those workouts, and you don't get one of those all that often.
Nah, there'll be one. Oh shit! Listen to this. Wow, what? This is like someone saw the show ahead of time. How do you think Gia Roman would fare if they competed in U.S. where they trained? Is their hype and the feedback you are seeing on them an outcome of who they have competed against so far this season? Once we are beyond Mertens and Mayhem athletes are too low from Sevan and Angelo tonight. Interested in some of your dark horses and who on your ranks you feel most and least confident. I already told you who the dark horse is. 888 miles per hour. It's Jay Crouch. If you want to get on the next bandwagon, it's Jay Crouch. I'm telling you, he's a savage. Brian, who's your dark horse? Angela, who's your dark horse? Can we see the list one more time?
What is a dark horse?
Just someone who's just hiding in there, just like someone who no one's looking at, who's like, oh shit, this guy's a problem. This guy's gonna ruin someone's day.
I'll say Calderon is my dark horse, the way you just described it.
Mr. Triceps.
He's, I don't think he's a dark horse for a top 5 finish, but if he puts together a solid weekend and somehow finishes 8th, I think that would be the peak potential for him. And I don't think there's a lot of people that are going to be putting him in the top 10.
How about Willie Georges? Is he just under the radar? I want to say something about him, but it's so mean I really like him.
I think he actually has kind of a tight range of potential finishes. I don't think he's going to finish the games. I think he's going to get hurt. Well,
I know that's horrible to say. I know it's horrible to say.
Well, it's just there are times that I factor that into the equation. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show a little bit that, there's athletes that just either always fade out at the end of the weekend or don't make the cuts or have to withdraw with injury or, it's just regularly a letdown come Saturday or Sunday for whatever reason. And, and if that happens enough times over their career, then yeah, it weighs down my confidence in placing them highly on something like this.
Do you have a dark horse, Mr. Angelo? Someone that people aren't looking at?
Yeah, I'm gonna say my not looking at. Well, that kind of ruins it.
Oh no, okay, you can say are looking at. Who are you gonna say?
I'm gonna say based on the way it's ranked. I would say based on the way it's ranked, I would say Olsen is my dark horse. I think he could have a much better games than where he's put at. I think, I just think he can do better than what he showed this season so far.
What do you think the problem is?
I don't know. Maybe I think it was more. I think his issue at semifinals was more of like an error more so than his actual fitness, probably. Because like he's proven time and time again he's one of the best in the sport. So I don't think he's getting worse. I don't think he's getting any worse. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't think he's getting worse. I just think he had some slip-ups. I think he can do better.
Anything you want to say about Joyal, Brian?
Joyal had an amazing semifinal. And we've seen people have, amazing semifinals sometimes and then get to the games and not do, not look like the same athlete. I think that he's, very capable, and he's going to run into a field that's just going to leave him in the dust.
Fair.
But like Angelo says, there will be someone that proves me drastically wrong. Last year, I think I had Guy in the bottom 10, and he finished 7th. And I had Jason Hopper 2nd, and he finished 19th. And that will happen, and that's what we love about it is that, you can have all the numbers on the paper. You can do as much research as you want. You can talk to the athletes and their coaches and their training partners and put all this stuff together. And you still have to show up on the competition field and get the job done. And someone will do it a lot better than we think, and someone won't.
I know why we're not talking about Taylor Self, but why aren't we talking about Jason Hopper?
You just haven't asked me about him yet, but we did talk about him a little bit.
All right.
As one of the bigger movers on the board, and I said that I feel confident about the progressions that he's made this year on the specific things that they've been targeting.
He was last year's hype.
He was definitely the hype going into the games last year, 100%.
Okay, let's move to the women. I don't want to say anything that's going to end the friendship. I love you, Jason. Ish. Love you, Ish. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing with the men. One more thing. Gotta do it. Sorry, gotta do it. One more thing. Tell me how fucking great Justin Medeiros is. Just tell me how it's. I saw Morning Chocolate. I didn't watch the video or the article, but I saw, is this the beginning of a dynasty? But what was the verdict in that article?
Did you say it was an article or did you say it was a video?
I don't know. I just saw it said it was on Morning Chalk Up and it says this is the beginning of a dynasty, and I had to have imagined that it's about Justin Medeiros.
I'm not actually sure, but Justin doesn't take things for granted. He knows that he's good, but he also knows how good the field is. And he's very aware of the fact that there's a lot of guys that have been around for a long time that know that they have a limited number of years left and they're really, really hungry to get a championship. He knows that there's a big group of guys within 3 years plus or minus of him that are really good and going to be competing with him for a long time and trying to take that crown from him. And from what I know about him, he is committed to staying ahead of both those groups of people. And I think he's in a position, based on his performances last year at the games, at Rogue, at the semifinals, that he's demonstrated the best combination of fitness. He's just better overall at everything on average than everyone else in the field right now. And even though I think there are tons of guys behind him that are, good enough to potentially win, I think it's unlikely that anyone's going to beat him.
Angelo, every year that he puts it to these guys. So we have this young group, obviously, that we're crazy impressed with, like the group that's even younger than Saxon, right? Sprague, the Dallin Pepper, the Phil Toon, the Tudor Magda,
Gray Shaber,
Jay Crouch, Gray Shaber,
Mertens,
Gray Shaber. I gotta have this dude on the podcast just so I can say his name 1,000 times.
It's actually not that how you pronounce his name.
Oh, how do you pronounce it?
Greasehaber.
Greasehaber.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's even better. That's like Samuel Conwaye. Okay. How important is it that he keeps putting it to these guys now? Like that must be horrible for all the competitors after watching Tori and Pro. What Tia did.
Oh.
And she just looks at the camera and she's like, "There's another one," and it's just like, oh. How important is it that he like?
I mean, I don't think it's any more important than just beating everybody else. Like, I don't think that plays as much factor into I mean, you think of everyone that shows up, you try to think of them on equal ground. Everyone's a threat. And Matt's always said this. He's always said, everyone who shows up, they're a threat. That they may not be a threat in every single workout, but they're a threat here or a threat there. So you got to think of everybody on an equal playing field and be afraid of just about everybody who shows up, whether you think they can beat you on something or not, because they can surprise you. You never know who's going to do well.
I completely disagree.
You completely disagree.
I think there's a massive psychological component. And I think you even saw it in Pat Vellner last year in the last day of competition where he was just killing workouts. Vellner was just killing workouts. Second place, first place. And he had to because he was behind. And every single time he looked around and Justin was one spot behind him. He was gaining no ground. And on the last workout, Justin put it to him. And I was just think that Pat had taken his body shots, like put everything out there. It didn't work. And he just accepted defeat and took the second place.
Yeah.
And like Sevan, I think what Sevan's saying is if you do that time and time again, he did it to him at Rogue. It wasn't like Justin was very, very, very well aware that Jason Hopper was in the field at the Syndicate this year, and he wasn't about to let Jason beat him again. He didn't care what the stage of the competition was.
Yeah.
And so he's just putting that in there. He's like, look, guys, I know you want to come, but like, I'm not letting up. I'm relentless in this pursuit also. And if he does it again this year and he does it in a similar fashion to whoever starts being his biggest threat, and when it matters most, he hits every key moment, which is what he's been doing for the last 10 months, 12 months now.
Yeah. I don't think it necessarily, it's not, I don't want to say it's personal, but it's not like you're not singling this one guy out necessarily. It just depends on who you're having to single out at that moment. Like you're saying Vellner on the last day, it came down to Vellner on the last day. Hopper at Syndicate was that person. So I don't think it's, I wouldn't say broadly he's looking at these, these group of guys. I'm looking out for them. He's looking out for the guys who he knows can make a move at certain places or will make a move. Like Vellner, he knew on the last day of the games last year, Vellner's going to try to make a move here, and he goes, I'm just going to try to beat Vellner, or I'm going to try to beat Bukowski, whoever's close. I'm just going to beat those guys. I think it turns into really just a cat and mouse game with the people you needed to turn into, not just a broad group of people because of their age.
Brian, I'll put Angelo in the hot grease here.
Great.
You better fucking hold on, Angelo. Who are the girls who are on your team?
Me?
Yeah.
Sasha and Alexis.
Sasha and Alexis and Luke and Angelo. Do you guys think that you guys can beat fucking Rich in the fucking Brat Pack?
No.
Fuck. See? You were right, Brian. He's already got Angelo beat mentally. You're right.
He's got us beat physically. That's totally.
Sevan, can we get a check-in of the poll from early in the show? Where are the viewers that watch this show more like? Are they a big risky type of people?
Mr. Beaver.
They're not super risky types of people.
They like.
Actually, they are.
Yeah, 60% of them. That makes sense.
What made you think that? Why did you put that out there before we switch over to the women? What was the?
Because a lot of the times when I'm doing this, I am taking it one spot at a time. And so I'll get to a point in the rankings where I'll have someone who I consider to be a sure thing at the games. Like more or less, their positioning at the games is very consistent. Their performance are consistent. They still are in the prime of their career. There was nothing at semifinals or anything in the season this year that makes me think they won't be that consistent again. And I have to put them up against someone. A good example would be like an Alex Vigneault versus a Phil Toon. And then I have to put Alex Vigneault, what I consider a sure thing, 10 to 15 place finish, very, very solid. Look at his event finishes year after year after year, against a Phil Toon who has this super high ceiling and potential upside, but he still has to prove that he can last 4 or 5 days of competition, 15 events, 3 to 4 hours of workouts, limited time for recovery, limited time to process information and go execute it on the competition floor. Things are not going to go your way, sometimes over and over again. How do you bounce back from that? Luckily for Phil, in this case, he's got a guy like Matt Torres in his corner who is very good at redirecting the ship and making, reading a situation quickly and getting his athletes the information they need and keeping that information they don't from him. There's a lot of variables. Alex has proven he can handle it. Phil is not. If someone wanted to put Phil ahead of Alex, I get it. And you're taking the risk, and that's okay. But at the games, I like to go with the sure thing more often than the big reward.
Fair. Okay, women. Man, Phil Toon. It's amazing. The comments are amazing.
I have not. I can't look at the comments. I cannot look at the comments.
Look at this list of women. So when I first see this list of women, I think, is this idea on top of what we just looked at with the men and how we talked about the men, is the phenomenon of a changing of the guards a real phenomenon? You have Travis Mayer, Noah Olson, Cole Sager slipping onto page 2. You got Yana Koski, should be on page 2, but Brian just can't put him there. And we're seeing this. We're seeing this over here. We have you on page 2. We have.
I think don't sleep on Yonakoski in the last chance qualifier. And if he makes the games, he's the top 10 threat.
All right. So Brian says, over here we have. I mean, look at all. You have Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Madeline Sturt.
Just clip that quote and send it to Sevan privately, like 10 days from now.
Yeah. You have Madeline Sturt. She's been to the games 4 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Katrin David's daughter, Jamie Simmons. I mean, this is and you have Cara Saunders at 10. What did Cara take in the games last year?
Withdraw. COVID.
No shit, that's right. Is Cara Saunders better than Laura Horvat?
In what?
At CrossFit.
Over like your. Okay, so now you're talking about like an all-time rankings thing?
Yeah, Angelo, say it. Who's better? We go over to Laura Horvat's house with the G5 right now, pick her up, swing by over to fucking Cara Saunders' pad, and we fucking just go to a park in Sydney and just make them war.
I'm not laughing about that, but
the comments?
Yeah, I think Laura could win right now.
I don't like Cara's mindset.
What, too laid back?
First of all, her body looks like the best it's ever looked.
Who's she training with right now?
Fucking her boyfriend. She's still fucking in love.
No, I mean, where's she getting
she's
her
swimming in
program from?
oxytocin. She just sits around and breastfeeds and does handstand walks all day. The fucking girl's the only threat to Tia Claire Toomey, and she's fucking like, oh, good job, Tia. Like she's like loving on Tia.
I don't think anybody's a threat to Tia.
I want to see angry Cara with
Sevan,
like
did you
fucking.
see that? First of all, do you know who her training team is? Her programming comes from this year?
No, she's got that fireman dude. Oh yeah, the Mayhem crew. Yeah, but she trains with that handsome fireman, and they just.
Did you see the stats I put out about her in the article this morning? It's probably the best thing I put out in the entire article.
In the semifinals article.
Yeah, underneath the women's.
I did. I read the article. I don't remember them specifically. Tell me. Now that flew off on a Cara Saunders tirade.
Underneath the women's power rankings, I picked out a few athletes in particular from the list to highlight, and Cara was one of them. And I talked about how Tia took the maximum points possible at the Torian Pro. 600 out of 600.
Oh, yes. Okay, I remember this part.
Which means that for everyone else in the field, there's only 24 less points in that 576 points available to earn. And I think she earned 560 or something like that.
So pretty much took all the second places.
Yeah, 560 out of 576 for 97% of points available. Because I'm basically assuming that Tia at any semifinal, unless there's a very, very specific test and someone who's very good at that test, is taking 600 out of 600.
Right.
So 576 points available, and that 97% compares to these athletes. Sung Young Choi took 98% of the points available in the Far East. But the relative level of competition is very different.
Yeah.
And basically every relative competitive Russian athlete didn't show up this year. And most of them are top 10 athletes over there. Mallory O'Brien, who, we probably will talk about and had an incredible and dominating performance at the Granite Games, took less of the percentage of points available than Cara did. And Emma Lawson, who had almost just as impressive of a competition against definitely a weaker field at Atlas Games, also took a huge percentage of the points, incredibly impressive. And Cara had more percentage of points available. So the only reason that we're not talking about Cara's dominating semifinal performance is because she happens to be from the same continent as the best person who's ever done this at her best, basically.
Right.
She looks like she's still getting better.
Right.
And she was, Tia did 36 total minutes of working out at the semifinals. She was like having time caps and winning workouts by 30% of the total.
That's how much time she spent on the floor, 36 minutes?
Yeah,
total?
I'm working on an article about this, actually.
Wow.
Crazy. Hey, that was pretty amazing, too. That's pretty, Emma Lawson, if you're listening or you're an Emma Lawson fan, turn this part off. That's pretty damning for Emma. Not damning. She's only 17, but you know what I mean? Like, now I understand why you put Emma where you did on the list.
Anyway, so people say, well, Brian, you just said how great Cara did at semifinals. Why don't you have her higher on the list?
Yeah, Brian.
So, I think that Cara's range of potential finishes does include a podium. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she can.
Caleb, can we have the list back? Sorry, say that again, Brian. Sorry.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Cara to podium at the games this year. The last time she did that was 5 years ago, and she came, close in 2018, and she had a couple really good years there. Took the year off 2019, missed in 2020, withdrew last year. So you're just looking at, I know how good she can be, and I know how good she looked at semifinals, and she looked just that good there last year. But in the last 3 years, did not qualify because you were pregnant. You missed the top 5 in that weird year, whatever. She was very, very, very nearly made it, and probably would have taken second, I think, if she'd made it to Aromas. And then she had to withdraw last year due to COVID. So it's just a bad string for her. And I do think she deserves to be in the top 10. It's possible that I'll move her up in the rankings by a few spots come the time of the games, but I can't put her ahead of those top 5 women. Like, I just can't see it based on her last 3 years compared to what they are doing.
But you can see it based on her semifinals. And you dropped her in the last couple of months versus raising Karen Friova, Danielle Brandon, Amanda Barnhart, Mallory O'Brien.
Yes, very, very impressed with all of those women for different reasons.
And Haley Adams, you're lowering her not because of her performance, but because of the rest of the people around her?
Yeah,
or is there something you see that you don't like? Is there something you see that you don't like? Angelo, do you want to take a bathroom break for this one?
No, I can handle it.
No, it's very rare that I see something from Haley Adams that I don't like. She is an incredibly impressive young woman. What she's already accomplished at her age is, I think, unrivaled for male or female in terms of games finishes relative to age. And she's proven that she can be consistent at competitions over and over and over again. It's a really, really tough top of the women's leaderboard. Tia isn't obviously entrenched in the 1 spot. It's hard for me to envision anyone unseating Laura from the 2 spot. I'm led to believe that what we saw from Mal O'Brien at the Granite Games is not even close to what she could have done there. Gabby Magawa has been...
What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that? Because that's how I feel about... Do you mean... Yeah, expand on that.
I mean, she didn't have to be any better than that. She was winning workouts. She was where she wanted to be in workouts, and there was no need to empty the tank in those to not only to qualify but to win against that field. Like,
she was a Ferrari racing Honda Civic, so she never had to take it out of third.
Yeah.
Damn.
Good analogy for those that like cars.
Even a bit harsh, but
anyway,
I don't see why Barnhart is above Danielle Brandon. Sevan, have Brian explain it. No, you have him explain it. I ain't explaining. You haven't explained. I don't know enough about Barnhart. I can't. All these girls, I can't see any of these girls above Cara Saunders except for Tia. I just can't. I'm just struggling with it. I understand Brian. I mean, she has a fucking whole train wreck of fucking competitions. I get it. She's a fucking, she's like someone who just keeps showing up in rehab. Cara Saunders.
Well,
I'm just look. He wants me to. Someone's saying to explain how Amanda Barnhart's ahead of Danielle Brandon. Well, Amanda Barnhart looks like a. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm out of control.
Well, I know there are a lot of people that are really, really high on Danielle Brandon's potential this year at the games.
Oh, on her potential. I thought you meant just high on her.
I also know there are a lot of people that are just high on her, and I know there are a lot of people that are really wishing I would wish Heidi a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Heidi.
So anyway, we were talking about, Amanda Barnhart has finished 9th, 7th, and 7th at the last 3 CrossFit Games. And there were very different formats all 3 years. The 2019 Games is what really impresses me the most, because if you look at the other athletes that managed to make the top 10 in a totally convoluted season that wasn't really well thought out at all, it's really small women. Tia Claire Toomey, Kristen Holta, Jamie Green. Kristen and Jamie had their best performances ever that year at the games. Katrin David's daughter, who was consistently making top 5s in any format. Carrie Pierce, Haley Adams, Bethany Shabern, Turi Helga daughter, and then Danielle Brandon. So Danielle and Amanda were the outliers there size-wise relative. Oh, Danielle Brandon did not finish in the top 10 that year. She missed the cut, and someone got had made the cut got banned substance, whatever. So that's it. Like, Amanda Barnhart was the outlier in the games field size-wise in a year that big athletes were not supposed to be able to make it through. She beat Cara Saunders in the online 2020 games. It was a weird year again. She got 9th last year in a pretty impressive women's field, and she looked better to me at semifinals in the same way that Saxon did, where it was just the poise, the control, the execution, just really looked to me like she was in her element. Some of her positions look to be a little bit better overhead. Upper body pulling seems to be coming along. So I think that she has the potential to not just continue these really, consistent performances, to maybe even move up a few spots this year.
Is he going to go on a call? That would be awesome. Oh shit.
He does.
I was just about to ask him a question. He's avoiding it. He must have been at the firehouse. Brian, I was going to ask Angelo if he's ever been around any athletes who have like some emotional issues, and by emotional issues I mean where emotional issues is too strong, where the thing that they need to work on most is their emotions. There's this chatter. It's not loud chatter, but there's this reputation, and I haven't witnessed it or anything, but that Danielle Brandon's a bit of a wild child, that she plays emotionally out there. Did that play into any of your placements for any of the athletes, men or women, but specifically Danielle Brandon? Like, were you like, yeah, she like these other ones? I'm looking at their physical capabilities with Danielle Brandon. I'm also, can she keep her head in the game?
Oh no, I mean that's 100% relevant for a lot of athletes, and you have to ask that question at certain times when you're trying to make a decision between two people. Danielle Brandon's athletic potential, if this was a power rankings of athletic potential, would be first or second, I think. I mean, it's incredible, like the combination of strength and grace and agility and body control, speed, like it's really unique. And Justin Kotler, he obviously loves and builds up all his athletes tremendously, and he's talked about this in some capacities, knowing her better than most of us do, and he's not wrong about that. But I do think that relative to these women that are ahead of her in terms of beating them at the CrossFit Games, that despite that, she doesn't have some of the things dialed in that you need to beat these women who are really, really solid on the intangible stuff that we talked about earlier in that setting.
What would you say to someone who said you have Brooke Wells ranked pretty darn high? To remind people, she was really on the bubble. The fourth place had 441, the fifth place had 442, and the sixth place had 443. It was a really, really close call.
Yeah. So
another very highly emotional person. I mean, the games wouldn't feel like the games without Brooke Wells there, to be honest. I know we all want her to go.
Yeah, people have been, asking about Brooke's placement on these power rankings all season long. And
I mean, you have her next to Cara Saunders.
Yeah. And also next to Ellie Turner, for those who can't see.
Oh my goodness.
No, Brooke's
guys,
a tough one to
Cara
place.
is so good. For those of you who are just new to the sport, she's so freaking good. And Angela's wrong. She is a threat. She is a threat to everyone, even Tia. She's more of a threat to Tia than anyone is a threat to Justin.
No.
Yes. Who? I know we've had this before. Who do you think's a greater threat to Justin than Cara?
Then Cara is
Tia.
to Tia.
Yeah.
Vellner and Fikowski.
All right. Fine. Okay. How did you decide with Brooke Wells with 11th? Is it just looking at her historic record? You think she has the championship mindset? She knows how to climb?
I honestly, I'm still not 100% sure how good her elbow is feeling, how confident that is, and what the total number of things that could really drastically be affected by that at the CrossFit Games that could inhibit her from doing this well. I don't think that she can do as well as she was going to do last year, which was, I think, anywhere from a third to a sixth place finish is what she would have wound up if she was able to finish the games. And I do think that this 11th place ranking is pushing towards the top end of her potential this year, given the fact that she's coming back from injury, given what we have seen from her so far, and given how good most of the other women on this field have looked. But she's got this extra period of time. I think she's in a training environment that's really good in terms of they're going to set her up as best as possible for success at the games, whatever the limitation is, whether it's 1% or 20%. They'll have her in a good place for that. She has a great support crew there. And I think that because you talked about how emotional she is, that's really valuable for her. And she's dealt with hard things before, and she's young, but she has the mileage over age type of thing going.
She is young. She is young.
Well, relative to the experience that she has at the games, she's young. Yeah, I think this is what her 8th CrossFit Games, and she's 26, 27.
Okay.
So she started doing it young, and she's been able to do it consistently throughout her career, or to develop a lot of experience as she's entering into the prime of her career. The 26 to 28 age range, I think, is where peak performance generally can be found. So anyway, there's a potential that this extra time period is really good for her. She'll be able to maximize her potential relative to whatever the limiting factors are. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, despite the fact that she's probably not going to be, as good as some of these women are relative to their total potential, that as good as she can be is still good enough for a 10th to 15th place finish.
Who did Brooke train with before this?
Comp train.
Do you think that there is a some sort of effect that happens when these girls, they see that their peers, Brooke, Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Katrin David's daughter, if one of them struggles and then a second one struggles, that there's sort of this effect where they all can. It's kind of like if your neighbor's husband cheats on his wife, and then all of a sudden your wife looks at you like, "Hey, are you cheating on me?" Like this sort of effect, where it kind of brings them all down, but maybe Brooke's insulated by it because she's with Tia.
I think Brooke and Tia have a really special relationship. I don't think it's one that you can,
How did that happen so fast? How did they have a special relationship so fast?
No,
they haven't been
that's
together
what I was
that
going
long.
to say.
Right?
I don't think it's one you can really even explain. I think it's just one of those things that when it clicks, it clicks. And I don't know either of them very well. I don't know their relationship very well, but every time
I guess me and you have a special relationship.
Hard to explain.
Yeah, but it did. I mean, it's been, but we've been together longer than Tia and
Yep.
Brooke.
Yeah, and it was.
I didn't mean
really
to compare them to us and reduce
it's not really
value
fair to them.
value of our relationship. I apologize.
It's that's fine. It's a good example. Can't explain it. Happened naturally, and it's a good thing I think for both of them actually.
So now I'm jumping to the fact I wonder how much Tia is really carrying Brooke. I wonder how important that is. I mean, because Brooke's recovery and performance is rather remarkable.
If you learned one thing about Tia at this semifinals, it was not so much about, or I should say, if I learned one thing about her, it was not so much about what she can do on the competition floor. I was blown away by how supportive and passionate, and it seemed to be genuine that she was for not just Brooke, but all of the proven training crew. Saxon, Will Morad, John Colte, who didn't even have a great semifinals. She was still at the end of his lane, cheering him on, encouraging him, helping him through whatever the task was. That was impressive to me. My guess is that she's picked up some of the value of teamwork through the Olympic bobsled experience that she had, where you have to be a part of a team as opposed to being in an individual sport. She did track, she's done CrossFit, she's done Olympic weightlifting. Now she had an opportunity to work as part of a small team and probably has adopted some of those principles of teamwork from the women that were leaders for her in that environment.
Yeah, I remember specifically when Saxon crossed the line, she was as excited as Justin Kotler.
And it's not like, Saxon is, I know we talked about him earlier, like Saxon is so good. And if he's actually learning things from her about the small nuances where he's giving away points on competitions by either starting out too hot, not pushing at the right time, letting another competitor influence his game plan, and she can teach him some of these little tricks and efficiencies on whatever, that can also translate to the margins that are needed to move up when you're already coming in as last year's 5th ranked guy.
It's crazy. The person who dropped the most points on either men or women, unless someone dropped completely off the board, is Sarah Sigmund's daughter. Is that because what happened there? What? I mean, she went from 14th to 26th.
I'll probably say that the most difficult part of semifinals for me was hands down watching her do the second attempt at the barbell complex. That was like, I was in pain for her watching that. Because what I saw there was someone who wants it so bad and wants her body so badly to be where her desire is to excel in this sport, and her body's not there yet. And she's come back and done these competitions, I think potentially, not maybe prematurely to do the competitions or all of the competitions, but maybe she did one too many than she had to. And on those lifting events at Wadapalooza and at Lowlands, I think she was pushing the weights more than her body was ready for, and it set her back. And therefore she falls on this list.
And do you think she'll ever come back up?
Dude, it's really hard. She loves to compete. Her body needs a break. Like, her body needs a full cycle to recoup and recharge. But she wants to be out on the competition floor so bad. She thrives in that environment. The fans love her. It's a big deal for her to be out there. And it's really, really difficult from a discipline perspective when you love doing that and have been so good in that environment for so long to say, I need 18 months. And it's going to be terrible for me. But if I don't give myself those 18 months, and I'm just making that number up, then I'll never be able to get back there. And I have to accept that. And like,
is she young enough to give herself that? Can she
look at Annie.
Okay, fine. Right. Right,
that's all you have to look at to say, like, yeah, for sure. And we talked about it earlier. The potential to be really, really good at the CrossFit Games as a woman extends much younger and much older. And we also have Kristen Holte from last year, who was like 35 and still was, a few points off the podium.
When we spoke to Sarah on on the show, she mentioned that she had set a personal record after her surgery. I want to say for 1,000-meter sprint or 2,000-meter sprint. Something crazy.
I mean, look, we saw flashes of Sarah that we want to see at Lowlands for sure. She was pretty good on some of the workouts, but the two things that were most exposing of the strength limitation coming back from that knee injury ended up, keeping her out and holding her back. And I do think that was not the wisest choice at the weight on that barbell complex, and it did a number on her, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. That, so like I said, I think it set her back.
Have you ever had hand, foot, and mouth disease?
What?
I just have a question for you. Have you ever had that?
No.
Oh, I think the last month when I was sick, I think that's what I've had. I don't think it was COVID.
Okay.
Just letting you know. Okay. Who is Chloe Dawn? I noticed in your comments someone said, "Oh, Brian, you didn't mention Chloe Dawn." She looks like she's it's KLOIEDAWN, Mr. Beaver.
Chloe Wilson. Yeah,
is that
when
Chloe
when I
Wilson?
saw this come out today, I thought I had included her on that list, and I sent it to Michael Brink, who does the graphics there, and I went back to check because I was like, did he leave her out? And no, I left her out, and I didn't mean to. She should have been on that list with the other women in the notable last chance qualifiers.
Oh, so would you have knocked off? So who would you have knocked
No,
off?
there's a last page. It's like a little bit of a summary page. It lists games qualify on my Instagram. It lists the games qualifiers that didn't make the top 30, and then some people like her, like Visa Gaffi, Luka Jukic, Adrian Munweiler, those types of people that are in last chance qualifiers that are really good, but I didn't put them in the top 30 like I did with others in the last chance qualifier, like Jamie Simmons, Katrin Davis, or Ariel Lowen, etc.
Look at her; she's at work.
Chloe Wilson is incredible. I would
Chloe Dawn. Her name's Chloe Dawn.
Okay, Chloe Dawn. I would really love to see her at the games. She, her consistency at semifinals was the absolute best of anyone who didn't make it to the games this year, male or female. 7th through 4th place finishes on every event and didn't get in.
And what about I didn't see her on the list, and I had her confused with Cole Griesaber.
Christine Kohlenbrander. Griesaber. It's very good that you said that. He'll appreciate that. We got to get it right.
Christine Kohlenbrander.
Although, I've been calling him Gray Shaper for like years and years, and then not only now does he want it to be right. He's at that proven training camp too, by the way.
Oh, did he qualify?
Yeah.
Sorry, not she. Sorry, he did not he. She. How did Christine Kohlenbrander do?
She did great. She did qualify for the games.
I don't see her on your list.
She was actually the very last person off, or first person off the list. So someone on Instagram put out a comment today about Christine Kohlenbrander and why she wasn't on the list. And I actually responded to that person and said that I thought it was the best argument. A lot of people had issues with the list for whatever reason, and that's okay. And but I thought it was the best argument that anyone had put out for any individual athlete that they were supporting. And this person talked about that last year, if not for Tia being placed in her semifinal, she would have made the games as the 5th best American in that field. And that this year, even though she got in as the 5th spot, which was impressive to beat out Ariel Lowen for that spot, that if she hadn't, yes, this is the one, that if she hadn't screwed up the last legless rope climb, which cost her a ton of points on that workout, that she might have actually won the semifinals.
Brian, this person's not saying she screwed it up. They're saying the judge screwed it up. It was clear. Kohlenbrander clearly.
Come on, we know the judges have made perfect calls the entire semifinal.
Okay, my bad. Sorry.
There have been, the judging situation, it's not the topic of the show, but what the person is saying is Christine Kohlenbrander was good enough to be at the games last year, probably, and she was potentially good enough to win the semifinal this year. And this person's not wrong in either of those regards. I have no competition history on Christine Kohlenbrander. She doesn't do individual competitions. The only 2 individual competitions that she's done in live settings are those 2, of any note at least. And I talked about it earlier, with some of the guys. There's a lot to learn at the games. I think that the one thing she does have going for her is she has 2 years experience there with the team, and she was on the demo team last year. Kohlenbrander is 100% one of those athletes that could surprise at the games. Let's say that some of these women have to move off the list after they don't make it through the last chance qualifiers. So let's say she ends up somewhere between 25 and 30. She could definitely, surprise and finish 13, 14 like an Ariel Lowen did last year. It was a very similar projection versus performance type thing. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to rank her up there, because I'm not going to put her ahead of Emma McQuaid and Turi Helgadottir and Jacqueline Dahlstrom, that are, in my opinion, just as impressive in the offseason stuff, more experience under the belt in the offseason stuff, more experience under the belt at the games, and are continuing to improve, even though they're a little bit later on in their career. They're not, Christine Kohlenbrenner is not that young. She's in the same age bracket of those. So when you're talking about how high you want to put her, it's like we've been saying, you have to look at who are you going to take out? And there are some people you could take out and put her ahead to squeeze her into the bottom 5 or so of this list right now, I think. But she just missed it by one spot. It does not mean that I'm not thinking about her and aware of her.
I couldn't even find her on Instagram. Instagram's not even aware of her. Does the demo team count as games experience? Great poll. Can you pull up the women again? Oh, there she is.
She just hit a 215-pound snatch the other day. I think it's there on the right, yeah.
Brian, who is the man who, wow, with a big old smile on her face. Who is the man who was below Spencer Panchik? Who is 31?
Will the Supernex?
Oh, wow. Okay. Alexis Rastus and Lucy Campbell are new to the list. Emma Lawson at 22. Is Emma Lawson the lowest rank winner?
No.
Of her semifinal?
No.
Who's the lowest ranked?
Michelle Morant.
Oh, I don't even see her on there.
Yeah, Michelle Moran and Sung-Young Choi are semifinal winners, and Victoria Campos are semifinal winners that are not on this list.
Okay, so those are from South Africa, South Korea, and
Brazil.
Okay, so besides those, is Emma Lawson the lowest ranked winner?
Yeah,
and that's because the Atlas Games competition was ass relative to the others.
Yeah, that's one way to say it.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that you would, for Emma to be higher, she would have needed to put it to them more, like won the whole thing?
Look, the women that she beat at that semifinal, none of them made the top 30 on my power rankings.
Wow.
She's the only one.
Wow.
And someone said in comments,
I want to say one thing about that. Did you hear what he just said? None of those women made it who she beat, and yet Madeline Sturt is not going to the CrossFit Games, and she's on this list.
Also, Jamie Simmons, Ariel
It's
Owen.
crazy that Madeline Sturt doesn't go to the games after her performance at Torian Pro. It's crazy. It was like championship fucking heart. It was nuts. By the way, that's who Jay Crouch is banging. They're together.
Seven. It's not crazy.
Sevan, not Seven.
Sorry,
Sevan. That's okay. It happens.
I had an itch in my nose.
All right.
It's not crazy. I don't know how to say this. Like, it's just negligence to the distribution of the game spots relative to competition. It's just choosing to ignore that as a feasible means to try to get the best women and men at the games. And they're choosing something that's completely arbitrary and has nothing to do with competition.
Yeah. So this is a good way to understand the power rankings, I think. Madeline Sturt may be better than a lot of these girls above her, but her chances of going to the games are significantly.
Everyone who's in orange will move up if they qualify for the games.
Right. But what I'm saying is Madeline Sturt head to head. Well, anyway. Okay.
It's really, really hard to make it through the last chance qualifier. As you can see, there's 5 women here, all of whom I think, if they made the games, would outperform this current ranking, but only 2 of them can make it. And there's a potential that none of them make it.
Right. Because the winner might not even be on your list.
Correct.
Crazy.
I think it is. I think the winner is on the list, but
you do? Who do you think?
Oh, we'll talk about that next week.
I say Jamie Simmons and Madeline Sturt. I'm going to go through these names really quick, and you just tell me if they're getting better or worse, where they are in their career. Want to play that game?
Sure.
Solveig Sigurd Dartor. Solveig.
Better.
So she's getting better.
Yeah.
Madeline Sturt, is she getting better or worse?
Oh yeah, she's getting better.
Alex Gazan, better or worse?
Better.
Bailey Rail, better or worse?
Better.
Sarah Sigmund's daughter, better or worse?
Worse.
Matilda Garns.
Better.
Emily Rolfe.
About the same.
I don't know if that's a choice.
I think this is the last year she's getting better.
Danny Spiegel.
No comment.
Wow. Too politically charged?
I can't tell.
She's got better this year. She killed it this year, right? I mean, you maybe thought she was getting worse, and then she showed up and just kicked ass at the semifinal, right?
For a competition that has 6 events, she's getting better.
Okay. Emma Lawson.
Better, definitely better.
Maybe getting better than all the other betters on the list.
Well, she's only, she's that's the scary thing about someone like that, is that she's already that good and she's only 17. So she's got potential for a lot of room to grow. What we don't know is if you're so good, so young, as like Amal O'Brien is, only 1 year older at 18. How much room is there to go up from there?
Do you think Emma Lawson is better than Mallory O'Brien?
No, I almost did nothing.
But how about where if you brought Mallory O'Brien back a year, or imagine Emma Lawson in a year?
Well, last year, Mallory O'Brien took 7th at the games. I don't think that Emma Lawson's going to crack the top 20 this year at the games.
Ariel Lowen.
Worse.
Sydney Mikulishin.
Better.
Lucy Campbell.
Better.
Katrin David's daughter.
Worse.
Jamie Simmons.
She's getting better post her injury, but she's doing worse relative to her top level.
30 Helga daughter.
Oh, surprisingly better. Still getting better. Really impressed with her.
And she's like 32, right?
Her and Cara Saunders are the only women that competed at the 2012 games and are also competing in this games.
Crazy.
The most senior, and she's still only 29.
Wow. Crazy. Her head looked good too. Like she looked like she was in a good headspace. Every time I saw the camera on her, she's smiling, she's pumped.
It was really enjoyable to watch Turi at Strength and Depth.
Alexis Raptis.
Better. Definitely. Wait, she is on the ascension.
I have her and Fisi all scrambled up in my head.
What?
Jacqueline, I know. I'm just telling you what's going on. Jacqueline Dahlstrom.
Better. And Jacqueline's also not necessarily she's 29 and she's kind of coming into her own now. So it's a kind of cool, I think, that someone who's 28, 29 can be getting to their peak potential at the same time that someone who's 17 and 18 can be having a lot of relevance in the field.
Emma McQuaid.
Better. Still getting better.
Ellie Turner.
Better.
Brooke Wells.
Same boat as Jamie Simmons. She's obviously improving relative to her injury. She's nowhere near, I don't think, where she was 12 months ago.
Do you think she's where she was 24 months ago? I mean, sorry.
Possibly.
Do you think 24 months ago she was better than she was 12 months ago?
No. I think from every single perspective except for the weak elbow, she was at the best she's ever been last year at the games.
I just put a user in timeout.
Okay.
I've never done that before.
Hopefully it was Scott Polensky.
Not Scott Polinsky.
Oh, okay.
They had. I would have let them stay. If you have a fake name and you're going to talk shit, then you got to go. If you got a real name and you want to just unload on me, I'm ready. I'll grab my ankles. You can give it to me all day. Cara Saunders.
Probably the hardest one you've asked me yet.
Harder than Miss Spiegel?
Yeah, because I haven't got a chance to see Cara in 3 years.
Right.
Like I haven't.
Go to her YouTube station.
No. I mean, at the games when it matters, I want to be able to say that she still has the top 5 fight in her, the podium fight in her, and that I think she does. But when you're 3 years removed from the last time you saw it, it's hard to get behind it. I'm hoping that she has that. If you're right and she's a big threat to Tia, that increases the drama on the women's side a lot, because right now I really feel like there's Laura, then there's Mal, and then there's Gabby and Haley, and there's like these little tiers of women. And if Cara inserts herself in there, it's going to increase the drama around, no one's beating Tia absent injury, but it's going to increase the drama for the podium if she's that version of Cara.
Man, if something did happen to Tia like that, that would be a bittersweet victory for anyone.
No, this is kind of what I was saying about Colton Mertens. You cannot control what happens to the other athletes. And you could talk we already mentioned there's 10 women that aren't in this field last year. There were 10 women or 8 women of similar caliber that weren't in the field last year. That's not Gabby McGowan's fault. That's not Mallory O'Brien's fault. So you can say Mal finished 7th as a rookie, but if you had Sarah, if you had Jamie, if you had Bethany, if you had Carrie, if you had Cara, she might probably have 12th or 13th, maybe. But who cares? It's how sports go. You can only compete against the people that show up, and if someone has to withdraw, they have to withdraw, and you move up one spot, and that's it.
Very well said. I agree. Thank you for clearing that up. Christy Arama O'Connell.
I think she's on. Man, these are tough. This is a tough game. I don't like this game anymore.
It's called making friends or losing friends.
These are there's this group of women, and it's kind of interesting because I feel that Emma McQuaid, who's a very similar age to Christy Aramo, kind of a similar athlete in some the way that they distribute results on the leaderboard, is moving up, and I feel like Christy might be moving down, but Christy's moving down from a much more impressive career. So It's like she still might be better than Emma, even though she's getting worse and Emma's getting better because she's where they're starting at.
I don't even know who Karen Freyova is.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
The most egregious thing you've said on the show so far.
Well, there's 2 people in this top 15. I don't even know who they are, really. Alexis Raptis. Did she come from a team? Was she like on Rich's team or something? And then Karen Freyova. Those
I'm 99% sure we had Alexis Raptis on the show.
No shit. I need to see a picture of her. That's what I mean. I have her all messed up with Fee Sigafi.
Caleb, Alexis Raptis put some good pictures up from her training video. I think her training session today or yesterday.
I must follow her. I must follow her.
There's one where she's lifting that's easier to see if she has this one.
No, we have not had her on the show.
Oh my God.
Yes, we have.
Oh shit. Are you serious? I don't
Deadass
recognize
serious.
her.
Her boyfriend's a Star Wars nerd.
Am I looking at the right
And you
Alexis
shit on
Raptis?
Star Wars.
Okay, I'm going to go back and watch that. She's 23.
She just finished college or something.
I think that she's a very similar athlete to Dallin Pepper from last year to this year. A couple things didn't go her way at the West Coast Classic, didn't make the games, didn't make the last chance qualifier, but could have been at the games and could have had some impact there. And it's okay, I think, for her that she didn't make it last year. I think that it's probably going to work out better in the long run. But she was really, really impressive at semifinals, and she has a unique combination of skills that generally translates to really good at the games relative to some other people, other combinations of skills, I'll say.
Who are you talking about?
What?
I said, who are you talking about? Who are you comparing her to?
Just the things that she's really good at is
I know. I feel horrible for not remembering her.
It's a combination of gymnastics and barbell cycling.
Caleb, bring that video up of where I interviewed her. Bring that show up. I don't believe I interviewed her. Go fuck you. You're lying. How's that, guys? Standing my ground. A combination of what? Gymnastics and what? Barbell?
And barbell cycling. And she's fairly competent on the machines. So there will be some stuff that is middle 20 finishes at the games, but that's okay. Maybe she'll have a workout in the 30s. That's okay. She'll have a big slew of workouts where she's able to punch in 5th through 20th place performances. And if you can do that consistently, it goes a long way. And there's other athletes that'll have big hits and then take consistently worse finishes on those combinations of workouts, which is like 2/3 of the workouts.
Can you play a little bit of this? Holy shit. What happened to my beard? This is fucking 400 shows ago. I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
To quit. I had surgery on both my elbows, one of them twice actually, and it was like a year process of trying to come back.
From a gymnastics accident? From an injury in gymnastics?
No, it wasn't an injury, or it wasn't like.
Okay, fine. That
Something
looks real to
happened.
me. All right. Alexis, I love you. You're amazing. What a great interview that was. That was awesome. And how about Freyova? How about Freyova? Can you show me her?
Oh, Sevan, you know how many times we've talked about her on here?
No, but it happens. I wonder what happened to Angelo. Angelo has his fire suit on right now.
Let me tell you about Karen Freyova, okay? Because there's possible that there's people that haven't been on when we've done this, or there's people that are always high like you and never remember what we talked about.
I haven't been high in 30 years. Careful.
Okay. High on the conversation, so you forget what we're talking about.
Yes. Holy cow.
Karen Freyova, she hasn't had a chance to show what she can do at the games yet. When she's the closest that she was in 2019 to really having the potential to break through and show people. And she got cut right before the final 10, along with some other really big names. And in 2020, she competed online, didn't do well enough to make it. And last year, she finished 6th place at one of the online European semifinals. The 5 women that beat her all placed in the top 13 at the games. Karen is better at the game. She will be better at the games than she is at semifinals.
Wow. Why do you say that?
I know that the whole show I've been talking about people who don't have games experience that need to learn how to do that.
Right.
What I saw from her in Dubai the last time that she competed there against killers at the games is what I need to see from someone to say that they can do well at the games. And Lazar Djukic has done that in Dubai and transferred it over to the games. And it's the only competition outside of the games that I think you can actually garner that information from. She's been studying pretty intensely for the last couple of years. She said that this year, after she finished, she doesn't speak English very well. I don't think she knows who I am. I'm a huge fan of hers, and I had a chance to talk to her after Lowlands this year. And I asked her, you looked so good this year. Was it just because it was in person? Was something changed for you this year? She goes, I feel amazing. I have finished my studies last year. I've been able to focus. It's not the training so much, just on taking care of myself between training sessions, the recovery, the lifestyle things. And she thinks that she's as well prepared in that regard as she's ever been, and she's now going to the games. I think that if she made the games last year, despite studying, that she still would have made the top 10, and I think she'll make the top 10 this year.
Bam. All right. No, I don't think I had COVID. I think I had hand, foot, and mouth. I'm re-diagnosing myself with hand, foot, and mouth disease. Oh, it's another epic day at the beach 2 podcast. Tomorrow morning, we have Hunter McIntyre on. It is going to be a fucking party. 7 a.m. live call-in show. Last time you guys were great. Gazillion you called in. I have tons of fun Instagram clips to show you. And then we have, I don't know who we have next after that. Let me see. It's a crazy week. It's a crazy. Oh, go back and watch the interview I did this morning with the Khaleesi home. Go to the home. Oh, thank you. So we have Hunter. Then we have Alex Gazan, who we didn't talk about. We have Dale Saran, the former general counsel for CrossFit Inc. That is going to be fucking awesome. Dale was also the lead counsel in the lawsuit of a class action suit of soldiers who sued the United States government for the anthrax vaccine experiment. And he's also running another class action suit with more than 500 clients in regards to the COVID vaccine. Then it looks like there's some crazy homeless man who's going to be on the show. Oh, no, that's me. Then we have Coach Grandy. If you are a father, this is the father and coach of 2 of the greatest young twin athletes alive in the world today. Then we have Jaguar Hart. Then we have Brittany Schmidt. And then we have Jeremy Kinnick, a former CrossFit Games athlete who is now the world's greatest dad. And we have him coming on the show.
Killer
Brian,
lineup.
what?
Killer lineup.
Yeah, I'm pumped. All right.
Are those the only shirts in your rotation these days? Just the black one, red one, white one, repeat?
No, the white one doesn't get pulled. I think the Pride Month is over, so I'll probably store this until next June. This was just a one-off.
Oh, okay.
This is just a one-off. We tried to sell them, no one bought them. I was wanting to sell them for like $300 a piece because these are hard to make because of the colors, I guess.
Should I say something that's harsh but true?
Sure, please.
So normally more of a thing you would do.
Is it about Alex Gazan?
No.
Oh.
It's about the Masters community.
Oh.
Relative to the what you just said about the Pride community.
Please.
You know, the Pride community is very vocal, and they didn't buy the shirts. That's what I've heard you say, basically.
Oh yeah. But this is for the real Pride community. This is for people who like really support Pride, not people who push it on kids. But it's different story.
Masters,
and there's not a lot of them. No, there is a lot of them. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
The Masters athletes are incredibly important part of the community, and they are very vocal in a lot of regards. And oftentimes I have conversations with people about putting out content surrounding the Masters community, and it just doesn't do as well on the numbers side of things. And we know that there's more than 50% of people who sign up for the Open that are in the Masters categories, and there's a vocal part of the Masters community that wants content coverage on them. But when it's doing very, very little in terms of attention relative to the individuals or the teams or the other stuff that we're often putting out there, it's hard for us to justify doing it.
Let me push back on that a little bit. I don't know when it was, but there was some Masters like event. It was not. I don't think it was sanctioned by CrossFit. And Tommy and Sean covered it on Talking Elite Fitness, and the viewership was nuts. It drove me bonkers to see the viewership. It was like normally they had like 1,000 or 200 people watch a show. This was like 30,000. Do you know what I'm referencing?
Yeah, I think I know what you're. I can't remember the name of the competition specifically. If it was
like 6 months ago
Masters
or
Fitness Collective or the Legends Masters thing. There's a couple different ones. I apologize. I don't know which one they covered, but that's great to hear. I want to do a show leading up to the games about every kind of group of people. I want to do a master show. I want to do a teenage show, maybe do teens and adaptive because there's only like 5 total divisions between the two of them. I want to do obviously men, women, and teams. And so maybe we'll see. We'll see if we do a master specific episode, if people want to follow along.
Some of Hiller's videos I have a little trouble following. Maybe it's because I can't believe some of the claims, but are there adaptive athletes that are competing in the wrong adaptive division in order to try to win? A dude with both arms is actually competing in an event where you're only supposed to have one arm?
I don't know, but I do know some some adaptive athletes who've been frustrated with either the ability or the inability to qualify for certain categorizations within that. And this is, I think this is a larger issue. And I think that what really needs to happen if we want to fix this and fix a lot of things, is that there needs to be a separate group of people that are specifically running the adaptive division. There's a lot of nuances there. There's a lot of attention to detail. And if it's the same people that are responsible for running that as are responsible for the teenagers, responsible for the age groups, responsible for the teams, responsible for the individuals, responsible for the Open, quarterfinals, semifinals, and games, finals, CrossFit Games, all the same people, that's a lot. Divide those things up. Let Kevin Ogar be the guy for the adaptive division. And he'll bring in the people that need to make those decisions.
Hey, they should do that just to like shirk the responsibility and the blame. It sounds crazy. I don't know how you would do. I don't know how you do it, because there's any billion combinations of parts you could have missing.
I've said this before. The timing of getting rid of Dave set the remaining games team up for a really challenging season, because the leader was removed, and everyone, even whatever they think about the leader, they know this guy knows how to get it done. Right. He delegates, and I get this done, and we delegate, and we get that done. The chain of command was broken, and there's a big task at hand. It's a really big task to manage all parts of all of those seasons. I think that the mistake they made was not trying to simplify as much as possible so that they could avoid as many problems as possible, have a smooth run this year, even if it wasn't the best expression of Adrian Bosman's programming, even if it wasn't the best expression of a quarterfinal. Just don't have the big mistakes. And that's not what they did. They went the other. They tried to take on everything. It seems like they tried to do everything, and the expense was that nothing was done great, and everything is less than it could have been. And I think that one potential solution to that is to divide and conquer and give someone the team division, and give someone the age groups, and give someone the adaptive, and let those guys focus on the individuals and have a perfect run next year of the individual season, which does get the most attention and does draw the most everything. And then every division, I think, will be more satisfied with execution of the season from start to finish.
I agree with you 100%. I didn't know that Hiller passed me. I knew that a couple of days ago we were talking on the phone and he said he was going to pass me. I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. Get rid of the CEO. Get rid of the guy who runs the games. This isn't that show, Brian. But I agree with you.
For anyone who stuck around, they got a little bonus.
Yeah. Please run over and subscribe to Andrew Hiller. Now it's a race to see how quickly he can double the number of subscribers I have. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Big show tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Bye-bye.